Mark Twain is a pen name. A pen name used to be very recurrent back in the days when people didn't want to be recognized. His first job was as printer apprentice. Okay? So he was learning how to manage the machine for printing newspapers. Just for you to understand what a typesetter is. In the past, newspapers were not printed the same way newspapers are printed nowadays in big machines that receive digital commands. He was fascinated by the richness of the river, okay, but the magic the river had, in his opinion. 1861, the Civil War broke out in the United States. So it was a period they were fighting for social equality, okay, abolition, etc.
So they expanded their power. Do you understand? London was expanding as well. So during this time, the population grew 400% during the 1500s, and the economy boomed. What do you think was the economy like back then? Remember, people used to live in the countryside, farms, so how did they get money? How did they make a living? Yes, Guilherme? Exporting. They also believed in these supernatural creatures. Do you remember in 6th grade with teacher Valeria, you read a book called Midsummer Night's Dream? It is in the forest, and you have these supernatural creatures. Fairies, they were fairies. So Shakespeare understood his time. He understood what people believed at his time, at the time he wrote. So, of course, he included what people believed. But then remember, I told you, not everything was a bed of roses. There was a drawback. There was a problem there. And this problem is called the plague. London, during Elizabethan times. Narrow streets, so no large avenues, no highways, narrow many houses, people coming and going.
He was born in Portsmouth. You see? So Bournemouth is like here, so you have here. Portsmouth is the second largest city in the county of Hampshire, on the south coast. When he was 12 years old, how old are you? 14, yes. So he was younger than you. So when he was 12, he quit school because he had to work, right? His father was in prison. Remember, he was one of 8 children, so then he had to help his mother. This experience made Dickens aware of the misery of poor people. Was Dickens rich? No. He wasn't extremely poor, but he wasn't rich either. But then he had to work, and he could see the misery of poor people. Especially Victoria reigned in England. Have you ever heard about Queen So what Victoria? Was going on at the time, right? During the Victorian era. So this is Queen Victoria, okay? And Victoria became queen when she was, let's see, how old do you imagine she was? 18. Yes, older. She was 18, older than 14, but still very young. The Victorian era was the reign of Queen Victoria, which lasted 63 years. A very long. Did she speak any other languages? Probably. Okay, so look, she studied history, she studied geography, piano, religion too, and she could speak French and German too. So she was a very well-educated person. So he was born in Boston. During the independence, okay, the groups, the American people got organized against the British to be independent, right? And then there was a person, his name was Paul Revere. He used to be on the coast watching to see when the British ships would arrive, because then he would tell Americans, the British are arriving, for people to get ready to fight with them, right? So when he saw the British ships in the ocean, he walked through the cities, to the streets in the city, to tell people that the British were arriving. Any idea?
10.
10 kids like Charles Dickens? No. They had who was adopted by this family here, John Allen and Frances Allen. And then his name used to be Edgar, used to be, and then after that, after her death, he spent the next several years working for literary journals and periodicals. He became an editor, he became a literary critic. Okay? He moved to other cities, so he went to Baltimore, to New York. Two more people died. See? Henry Poe. Who was Henry Poe?
His brother.
His brother. He died in 1831, only 2 years after they were living together. And then 3 years later, John Allen died. Who was John Allen? He married Princess Virginia. And how old was Virginia when they got married? Do you have any idea?
Very young.
She was very young. How old are you? 14. She was 13. There is a very famous poem by Poe, which is called The Raven. Okay? What is the meaning of raven? Remember, don't translate.
Is it kind of bird
It's a kind of bird.
that is black?
That is like a big black bird, right? You can see here.
The thing is, guys, he was not born in England, but because he was born in the British Empire, he was British, right? Now, would you guess where he was born? India, guys. Okay, but once again, he was born in British India, so that means that he was British. Okay, his family, so his parents moved there to India. He was born there, but he was a British citizen.
Now, if I talk about the British Empire, does anything come to mind?
Malaysia,
Australia, good. South Africa, good. So you got it, right?
So guys, in 1920, right now, if we talk about the United Kingdom, we think about England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, right? We think about just that area. But if we go back in time and we go to 1920, guys, the British Empire, there was a saying, people said that the sun never sets on the British Empire. Why? Because when it was day in Australia, it was night in England. And when it was a day in England,
Imagine
it was
this guy
night in
in
Australia.
Eton College, very high class British society, and he went to Burma to be a policeman. So he went back to London and he decided to become a writer. But guys, it's important then to understand that he saw the rich people in England, he didn't like it. Then he saw the poor people in Burma, he thought, interesting, I like these people. I don't like the way that the British treat the poor people in Burma. So he decided to investigate the social difference. He belonged to not a very high class, but so middle class society in England, right? And imagine how shocking it would be for society to see that this guy, this middle class, was walking around mixing with the poor and dressing up like Burton and working in the fields. Okay, so he said, no, this is going to be too much of a shock, so I'm going to use another name. I'm going to use a general name. And what is a British name? George Orwell, and he invented the name.